Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our latest webinar. We're excited to have all of you with us. My name is Ben Skelton, and I'm the Vice President of Habanero, and with me is...
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Ferancik. I'm the Product Manager of GO.
For those of you that aren't familiar with Habanero, we're focused on helping companies become better places to work. This is something we feel very passionate about, and we're proud to be recognized for. Over the last 11 years, we've been in the top 10 of the Great Place to Work list, and for 5 of those years have placed #1 in the country. However, we don't just focus on making Habanero a great place to work, but rather help a wide variety of organizations become better employers. At our heart, we're an employee experience company. We focus on the intersection of workplace culture and the digital workplace. We believe you can't create an amazing workplace culture without technology, and it's pretty darn hard to enable technology without considering the human experience and workplace culture to make it successful. We help organizations improve performance through better employee experiences. Our services include everything from helping organizations define their purpose and values, creating award-winning intranets, and implementing workplace analytics to better understand the experiences their employees are having.
5 years ago, we created an intranet for SharePoint called GO. We're incredibly proud of the leading North American organizations that trust GO to power better, more connected employee experiences. And I can't wait to show you a bit of GO today.
Now, with the intro out of the way, let's dive into today's content. We work closely with many communicators, and it's clear that their world has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. Internal communications channels, tools, and techniques are evolving, and it's harder than ever to keep up with the constant pace of change and expectations from our leaders and employees. Many communicators are asking themselves, how do they transform into digital superstars in today's world of work? We're also hearing a consistent theme from a lot of IT professionals that support internal communicators. Our IT clients tell us that they want to provide comms with the best and most modern tools and experiences, but modern SharePoint and Microsoft Viva require a lot more consulting and support than they were expecting. Today, we're going to explore how communications and IT can create a better experience for all. But before we do, we want to spend some time exploring today's world of the communicator.
You know, I work a lot with communicators, and it's clear it's tough being a communicator right now. And I'd love to kind of explore why. First, expectations are high. Communicators are expected to adapt and navigate to this new world of work. Expectations include constantly needing to evolve their digital literacy of different organizational and external tools. Roles have broadened to include understanding employee experience and how to build culture. Leadership expects to make decisions based on data and wants to see measurable results, but access to data can be limited, and finding the time to define those meaningful measures can feel a bit insurmountable. Here's a quote: "Every week someone has a new idea. We just don't have the people or the skills to deliver. We're learning as we go, and my team is burning out." This feeling that teams are stretched thin, but the demands are growing instead of shrinking. As I go into the second, this oversight of too many channels. The number of communications channels has exploded, and channel expectations are not equal. Communicators are expected to be like authentic or fun or cool on tools like Instagram or Facebook, but professional and polished on an organizational update. It can feel like you're taking on multiple personalities to design this multi-channel strategy that's still aligned with your strategic goals and one that considers the oversight of each of these communities and conversations. I like this quote. The website, our intranet, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, digital signs, and even ServiceNow. Yesterday, someone asked me what our TikTok strategy is. Not going to happen. Communicators are being asked to experiment, be agile, but behind the scenes, the grind feels a lot more like firefighting. And the last one I want to highlight is really this being stuck on legacy tools. The funny thing is, like, even though new tools are constantly being added to the list, communicators are often stuck using legacy tools, especially for internal comms. Solutions from like the late 90s or even early 2000s that are still on-prem, not accessible from mobile devices, impossible to author, but essential to some business critical process or team. I hate SharePoint. It's hard to use. I need to involve IT whenever I want to do anything. And let's not even talk about mobile. It doesn't help that we're still on SharePoint 2010. SharePoint is a common offender. Many organizations are on old versions that require IT involvement to make small changes. With all the things going on, who has the time to chase an IT request unless it really, really matters? I'm going to hand it over to Ben and he'll walk you through what kind of impact this has on organizations.
It's also clear that what worked before doesn't work today. We've done a lot of research in organizations, and it's clear that employees are feeling more disconnected than ever. Communicators are seeing decreasing traffic and engagement in their traditional channels. We're still not effectively reaching the field, and ultimately, we lack insight into how we're performing. So we know that employees are feeling disconnected from each other, and we believe there's a few reasons for this. The first, and probably most obvious, is that it's a super challenging time right now. We don't have the same patterns and norms as we've had in the past. Our days look completely different, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, which adds a lot of weight to our lives. We're also missing spontaneity in our day and those chance collisions in the hallway, elevator, kitchen, or cafeteria. We generally see and talk to the people we plan to see. The third is that work has become a lot less fun. We're missing that connection to others that can't be replaced by digital. I was talking to one client who described it really well. Work is much more transactional than it's ever been before. It's been over a year and a half since I had lunch with somebody from work, and I know personally I miss it a lot. Finally, most of us have a lot less discretionary time. Our calendars are full of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and our plates are also full with the work we have to get done.
Thanks. As I mentioned earlier, the number of tools has grown. When we think about our corporate intranet, use cases are becoming more distributed. Instead of communications being siloed to email, newsletters, and your intranet, what we're seeing is that activity is shifting tools like Microsoft Teams, Yammer, even those line of business applications as they mature. This doesn't mean that traffic is necessarily down. Sometimes it's not being measured correctly across all of these tools. I often hear that employees simply can't keep up to all the content that is being sent out. I had one internet manager calculate the time it would take an employee to read all the communications their team was sending out in a week, and it was something like a day's worth. Now
That
that's
seems reasonable.
right? Like that's a pretty extreme case. But I think it gets that like the world is noisier, like and harder to keep up with, and people are getting tired of it. The rhythms are changing. The email catch up on your commute just doesn't really happen anymore because most people are working from home, and employees don't really want to squeeze in time to read, organizational quote unquote propaganda. Employee appetite for communications has also changed. They want authenticity, which can conflict with the voice and tone that an organization is comfortable with.
There are still a ton of barriers to reaching out to our field and frontline employees. Licensing and identity management are still huge barriers. Many frontline and field employees don't have an email address, and when organizations start to examine the complexity and cost of providing access, they kind of get stuck. A lot of them stop and say, maybe it's not worth all this effort. Because of this, we continue to rely on people managers, which can provide a really inconsistent experience. Some people managers are awesome and they share those communications with employees, but some leave a little to be desired. This often means that we resort to printed materials and digital signage in cafeterias, and it's just really tough to get that message across. The current tools that are provided to field employees are often out of date or not trusted. We know that frontline and field employees want to easily access the latest safety updates and protocols. That's kind of obvious, but we also know they want to stay connected with supervisors who are working hybrid schedules. And ultimately, they want to feel valued and be engaged with a sense of belonging. The current tools we provide the field doesn't make this a reality. In addition, most of our tools, including our legacy intranets, Christina kind of alluded to this, they're often behind a VPN, they're not designed for a mobile user, they just don't provide an inclusive experience for the realities of a frontline employee. Finally, lack of insight. There are several reasons why we see communicators don't have the insight they're craving. The first, many intranets are built on SharePoint, old SharePoint, and the out-of-the-box SharePoint analytics are weak. They're getting better in modern SharePoint, and we're going to show you a little bit of that today, but there's still work to do. Many organizations have legacy intranets with legacy analytics tools that haven't been updated in years. I've seen a number of organizations whose analytics tools haven't been updated in over a decade. We also know that having analytics available is really only half the battle, or maybe a third. Having a measurement strategy and plan are important, and they're often the starting point in creating actionable insights versus vanity metrics. And this really makes it challenging to know how we're doing.
Okay, so enough about the challenges. Let's walk through some examples of how we're addressing some of these things in Go and helping communicators and IT professionals create better employee experiences in Microsoft 365.
So this is Go for modern SharePoint. You can see because it lives in Microsoft 365, all our Microsoft tools are one click away. Modern SharePoint sites are anchored with search at the top, so my search is easy to access and I can find what I'm looking for on our intranet and beyond. Now, you'll notice that this looks like the GO Intranet brand, but of course we work with each client to brand the intranet for your organization and help bring your brand to life. All our intranets on Go for modern SharePoint have one thing in common though. They all use the Microsoft Fluent design system. And what that means is that you can use an out-of-the-box component, you can use a component from Go, or you can even use third-party components or Microsoft Viva components, and everything looks and feels great. This gives you the ultimate flexibility, which is really, really important right now because things are changing so rapidly, and you don't want to be stuck in using new things as they evolve or are developed. Now, every great intranet is anchored with a really strong navigation, and Go is no different. You can see here I've got my news and events, I've got my policies and resources that are easily one click away. As well, I can explore employee essentials or information about our company. Below, we've got our featured news experience. This shows employees what is the most important news that I need to read right now. And featured news, you can see every news item has a category, which makes it easier to understand what this news is about. As well, it can be filtered by location and includes social, so I can see the likes and comments for each of the news articles. Now I'm really excited to show you what's below this. This is actually brand new. This is the Microsoft Viva Connections dashboard in preview from Microsoft. What was really exciting is the team was able to add this to the page this week actually, which was kind of funny. And we popped it into the demo and it works great. And so this really does show the flexibility of that Fluent UI design system and how we're really designing for Microsoft 365, modern SharePoint, and Microsoft Viva. So you can see in my dashboard cards here, I've got a policy update to read on corporate travel. I can actually fill out an employee survey. And what's super cool about Microsoft Viva is this actually allows deep linking within Microsoft Teams. So the survey lives in a team in Microsoft Teams. And by clicking this, I'll go to the right place and I can complete the survey. So it really shows that tight integration. I can also watch a safety video that lives in Microsoft Stream or register for our holiday party. Now below that is our what's happening in experience. Christina talked a lot about noise and channels and just employees are feeling really, really overwhelmed right now. What's happening tries to solve that. It takes everything from our corporate news to messages in Microsoft Teams to items in Yammer and praise that occurs in different channels and aggregates it into one spot, making it easy for employees to kind of make sense of the chaos, if you will. So you can see in my what's happening feed here, I've got people news, I've got company updates on our strategy and vision. I've got this from our website that I want people to read, and even a post from a Teams channel. And of course, if I scroll down, I can see here I've got Yammer updates, which is really great. I may not go to Yammer all the time, but I can get some of that important news as well. And what's really great is you can go up and you can filter. So you can say, you know what, I only want to see our corporate news, or I'm curious what's going on in these Microsoft Teams channels, or maybe kind of give me the latest and greatest from Yammer. And of course, we know recognition is really important in creating a great workplace. So recognition is one click away as well. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Most corporate communicators ask me, they're like, I really like this idea, but there is no way I want that Teams message pushing down my really important corporate communications. No problem. You get to actually choose the weighting and the relevance of each of these items. So you can say, we actually want to weight corporate news more than we may want to weight a Teams post or a Yammer post, for example, making sure that we can kind of control the experience and we put the right priority on the right item. Below that, we've got kind of typical things you would expect to see on an intranet. So I've got easy access to my tools. I can do everything from reset my password to request time off. Below that, we've got our events module. And I think events is really interesting. We see a lot of organization where there isn't actually one place to find all of the various events that are going on. So in this case, I can see events from Bring Your Pet to Work Day. I'm allergic to dogs, so maybe I shouldn't go into our London office on October 18th, Taco Tuesday, an annual donation drive. This is really important right now because we want to create connections between employees and give them a place to do that where they can also share interests, and we can actually help facilitate some of those collisions where people get to know each other. So you can see here how valuable and useful it is. I'm going to jump into Bring Your Pet to Work. So this is the Bring Your Pet to Work Day page. So I can see here the event category is fun. I can see when it starts and ends. I can see where it is, and we've got an integrated map as well. I can see the event organizer, and of course, I can download the calendar info. I can register for the event, or I can see all upcoming events. So everything I need there. I'm actually going to leave a comment. This looks like a fun event, but I'm allergic to dogs. What a downer. I guess I won't go. Perfect. So let's jump back to the
But
homepage.
at least you know you don't want to be in the office that day. So something to
Yeah,
pay attention to.
very useful. Although I think this one's at a park, which is good. Maybe I will go and stalk the dogs. Below that, we've got a little piece of information on the homepage here about a campaign that we're running as an organization for breast cancer awareness. And Christina talked a little bit about how SharePoint was a bit of a common offender with communicators. And we see a lot of groups saying it's hard to update content. We're going to do something crazy in this demo, and we're actually going to edit our homepage. So let's go to edit. We're going to edit this content because we've done really well with this campaign. So you can see the editing experience in SharePoint looks very similar to the actual page that we're seeing now. So if you haven't experienced modern SharePoint, it's completely new. Now let's take this component and let's edit it. You can see here I can edit the component, and we're actually going to say we've raised 95% of our charity donation, and we've raised $95,000. There we go, and we are good to go. We'll also do something here where I talked about what's happening and how communicators can adjust the weighting. So you can see that's actually available right here as well. So let's say I want to up our news weighting because our corporate news is very important to me. I can republish the page. And here we go. I've got my updated what's happening settings. And if we scroll down, I've updated the breast cancer awareness fundraiser. So it really illustrates how content authoring and just working with settings for these components that are built for modern SharePoint are really, really easy and don't require IT involvement. Now, Christina, I'm going to turn it over to you, and maybe you can talk a little bit about pictures.
You know, the photo gallery is one of those underestimated areas of an intranet. I often kind of get skepticism from communicators that they really need a photo gallery, or that they would even want to potentially open up a photo gallery to allow employees to share their own photos. But almost every time I feel that skepticism. Once they launch and open up that photo gallery to their employees, they're shocked by the kind of outpouring of interest and outpouring of photos that come from employees, especially field employees. The photo gallery can be such a great way to start to connect those field employees with kind of more head office or office employees, because the best photos really come from the field. That really amazing construction site project or some wildlife out in some interior remote region, that's what these field employees get to experience, that the head office staff, and especially staff now working from home, really don't get to touch or feel. So by opening up a photo gallery like this to allow to, share a photo, like if you click on that share a photo um, button there, Ben, it's just so simple, works on mobile devices. So an employee who's in the field who catches this unique moment can quickly select a photo from their phone and share it with the rest of the organization. A photo gallery could be placed on the homepage, it could be placed in a smaller team, but really that ability to connect people through photography, allow them to, you know, comment and like photos really is a compelling story. And what we see is also in the analytics, this is one of those key features that just gets that kind of traffic. You know, that scrolling myth that nobody scrolls to the bottom of the page. I think the analytics around photo gallery really kind of demystify that story, because what we see is that the photo gallery is one of the most popular features in almost every Go intranet that it exists in.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. And you can see here just how kind of beautiful the photo gallery is. It's got a great light box view. It's got integrated social, as you'd expect. Christina talked about uploading photos, and employees can do that. Some organizations turn on moderation, some don't. For those that don't, people could report a photo if maybe it kind of misses the mark, or maybe it's a brand photo and you want to kind of download that high quality original. You can do that as well. And there's just a really great experience to kind of go through the photos in the gallery. So it's such a popular and powerful feature that is often underestimated. Now, you're probably a little curious, what is this thing on the right-hand side? This is the springboard, and this is really a collection of tools that follows you across your digital workplace. Christina has a pretty good analogy. She calls it, what do you call it?
I call it the bat belt. It's like your utility belt, if you're a superhero, follows you everywhere you need it.
Nice. I love it.
Bat
We're all superheroes. And it's nice to have the bat belt. So the springboard is really that place for all of those important tools that you need. And what's cool is it doesn't only have to live in your intranet. So if you're spending time in a modern SharePoint collaboration site, the springboard can actually be deployed there as well. So you have quick and easy access to the tools. So you can see here, it's got items like the people finder, which you would expect. So I can find somebody like Tim, but I can also find somebody from our marketing group. I'll spell marketing right. And there's lots of marketers, so why don't I find a marketer in Toronto where I'm located? Boom, there we go. It's also got my tools, so I can do all of those common actions that I saw on the homepage, or maybe pull up a recent file. But where it gets really powerful is helping organizations and people get through the clutter and get to the important content that they need. So we've got integration with services like ServiceNow, so I can see all of my service requests, and maybe I'm having trouble getting my VPN set up. I can just click on this, go right to ServiceNow, and see my ticket or my outstanding request and action it. So it's a little bit of a heads up display into all of the various things that are going on in my world. As well, it's got items like quick links, it's got your benefits. So you can see here, we've got, this is actually from Habanero. So you can see we have wellness allowances and tech allowances. So people can actually see the balances of their allowances. We're hiring if you're interested. Check out our website. I can also see my vacation balance. And of course, I can go into the specific tool to manage those requests. For organizations that are public, we've got stock quotes and the good old weather. Weather's actually a weirdly important feature in an intranet. We believe it's kind of that thing that binds us all. We often start phone calls with the weather, and so having a weather widget on your intranet is really valuable. You can see right now it's selecting Toronto, but of course I can edit this, and maybe we're going to Los Angeles. I'm going to move that up and make it Fahrenheit. So not only as a user can I edit the order of my weather widgets, but you can see here the live springboard item icon updates based on the location that I've chosen that is first. So it's kind of a nice experience. Now, we've talked a lot about how modern SharePoint presents a really, really great authoring experience. And that's true, we're not lying to you, it's awesome. But where it kind of falls short is actually creating pages based on templates and adding metadata. That can actually be really confusing, complex, takes a lot of time. And so what we've got in Go here is an add content wizard. And this really helps people who may not be, day-to-day content authors add an item to our intranet. So you can see here, I could add a news post, I could add a news link, I can add an event, or I can even add a global alert. Why don't we try that now just as a kind of fun little experiment here to show you how easy it is. So in the old world, I would have had to find the list, go to the list and update it, but the wizard takes me right where I need to go. So I can say here, let's say last day to pick our holiday party theme. I don't think this needs to be a warning or critical. Let's keep it as a heads up. And I will say, pick your theme so we have the best party ever. And let's give it a start date and time. I'll start it as of yesterday, just to be safe. And I'm going to end it as of, well, give people a little bit of time. Let's end it on Monday. And I can add a link for more information. And now I can save it. So you can see how easy it was to add that global alert. And what's exciting is it appears right away. And of course, we're in SharePoint, but if I go back to my homepage here, you can see that that global alert is there for me. Now, finally, the last thing I want to show is the settings area of the intranet. One of the things we want to do is cut down, on news and clutter. And so you can see here, I can actually choose the categories I want to see for my news and events and the locations I want to see. Of course, this can be set up by default for people, so they only see the locations by default that they're in. And of course, as communicators, we may lock people down, so they ultimately can't unsubscribe from business essential content, maybe strategy and vision or safety content.
And it's important to note
So
that that
that's
can
the
be,
springboard.
oh, sorry, Ben. It's
No
important to
problem.
know that that can be extended. So not just locations or categories, you can go a little bit further. If it's business units that are meaningful for you, countries, it's extensible, so we can kind of really make it fit your organization, not just what the sort of template looks like today.
Nice. So let's take a little bit of a different path and jump into Microsoft Teams.
Sounds good. So here we are in Microsoft Teams. It's kind of hard to tell actually, because it looks so similar to what we were just looking at, but on the left-hand side, you'll see that sort of Teams rail. You can see the different Teams apps that are available in this user's profile, and the Go Intranet is highlighted. So we are inside that kind of Go Intranet experience, but right inside of Teams. Now, every organization's on a different journey with Teams. So depending on where your maturity is at, this might not be as far along for you. But what we are seeing is this trajectory of organizations moving to working in teams. I know at Habanero we do this. A lot of the organizations I'm working with do this, but people are working in teams and they need their essential work tools right there beside them. So having the intranet in Teams has become kind of an essential next step for organizations, and it being in modern SharePoint and now connected through Viva connections, you really are starting to piece these parts of your digital workplace together. Has been rolled through the page, no differences. You pretty much get all that same sort of functionality, really, really close to where you are. And with Teams too, this is now a fully mobile experience. So an employee can have their Teams app on their phone and be able to sort of jump to their intranet and quickly access an important policy or get to their benefits or IT service requests that we just showed in the Springboard.
It's really great too because when we think of apps installed on phones, most of us have Microsoft Teams on our phone. So having that intranet one click away on an app we already have is really, really useful.
And it's one less tool to manage. So it's not as though you have to manage a separate mobile app. You have this one central mobile app that employees can trust for their organizational content. If we navigate over to policies and resources, I want to show you the policies and resources experience in Go, but also just like how cool it is to be able to get your policies and resources on your intranet, but you're still in Teams. So here we are in policies and resources. We know in organizations that employees suffer from trying to find a policy or a resource. Sometimes it's in a file share, sometimes it's on the intranet, sometimes it's sitting on somebody's local drive. It can be incredibly frustrating for an employee to find a trusted policy that's up to date. So centralizing key resources and policies is essential, especially now that more people are working remotely, and especially for those frontline employees who need these critical policies to do their job. Our policy center is quite simple. You have that search across the top of the page. On the left-hand side, you have that other ways to search. So, if you want to find a form or a policy, employees are not necessarily knowing what the name of the thing is that they're looking for. They might just know that they need to find a specific form. So being able to find things by type or topic, we've known to be an essential part of a good policy center. In the center there, you'll see important policy updates. One of the challenges we had talked about is employees are often inundated with information. They might get an important policy update through some email newsletter or through a notice or a post, but having sort of a central place where those important policy updates are is great for employees, especially when they're coming back from vacation or coming back from maybe a little bit of leave. So being able to quickly find out what they should, kind of catch up with. Just below that, we have pinned items, and we have seen that with so many policies, it can be really hard for an employee to kind of find something, and then on top of finding it, find it again, right? And nothing worse than like finding it and then not being able to find it again. So what we've added to Go is this pinning concept. So when you find that important policy, you can quickly pin it, and then it's able to be sort of captured in your pinned items. Pinned items can exist here on the homepage, or depending on your organization, can live wherever makes the most sense. And in case an employee didn't pin the item when they recently found it, we have new and recently viewed policies. So new and updated, so things that are new and updated that might not have the profile of an important policy update, but maybe is a policy you care about. And then recently viewed really being those policies that you just recently had checked out or visited, and maybe you didn't pin them, but you still want to find them. So that kind of information priority, making it easier for employees to find that information that's critical to their everyday. If we go into the search experience, and let's search for travel. Thanks, Ben, travel. So we've made a lot of search experiences in Go to be quite intuitive and simplified because we know that overwhelming people with information on a page can make it hard for them to digest. So you can see our search results are quite simple. We're just using our titles in the search results. On the left-hand side, a really quick kind of filtering of your policies, kind of that shopping cart model that we see in a lot of like Amazon and eBay and all those other places. But you get your short list of policies, and then if you wanted to drill down and you wanted to find out more information about that policy, your information icon will open up that critical metadata for that policy. And this can be extensible to any kind of policy metadata that your organization cares about. We do often see sort of workflows attached to these policies, so it can go through multiple reviews and have that all tracked behind the scenes. As I mentioned, the pinning is right there, so if they want to pin something, they can, or they can dive right into that policy and click into it. On the policy page, what you see here is an HTML version of the policy. We support PDFs and docs and all of the other types, even links to other systems. So if not all your policies live in one place, but you still want to have kind of a collection of all the policies, you can have them in one place. But we do find that the sort of HTML web page provides the best experience for especially frontline employees, because they can open up their phone, they're not pinching and zooming, the page will snap to that responsive view and they can sort of scroll through and find that essential information. A few important things that are really beneficial if you have policies in your organization and you have field employees reading them, you can see that on the page has a little bit of a sort of a table of contents so they can jump into the thing that they're looking for, helps them navigate that page very quickly, especially on a mobile device. And then on the right-hand side, you have that critical metadata, so you know when it was last created or when it was last updated, and then who you can reach out to for help with that policy, as well as related policies, and then the ability to provide your feedback on the policy if you maybe notice something is not quite right. We're hearing more about sort of whistleblowing, so if you're starting to see policies that don't support how an organization is working, being able to provide that feedback, and then the owner of that policy being able to respond to it. So that's our policy center, inside Teams, inside your intranet, but we're going to take a look at it in another way in Teams. So Ben, if you could go up to the Teams, Teams. So here is an example of a team. We've just added it to a general channel, but if you navigate across the tabs in the top of this team, what you can see is your policy library highlighted as a tab in Teams. So if you imagine this being a field team, they would have kind of a quick access to their policy library. And then they can do exactly the same experience we did before, search for a policy, find a policy, but it's just even closer to where they might be working if they're spending a lot of time, you know, working with this team, chatting with other people in this team. Right next to it, we also have another kind of way to sort of highlight content very specific to a team or a group of people that are working together.
Perfect. This is ultimately, this may look familiar because this is GO's What's Happening module, but we've integrated it into Microsoft Teams. So I can see here, I can get my news and my Teams updates. I can find Yammer and praise for my team as well. And this is really important because we can't think of our intranet as this monolithic thing anymore. We have to think of it as a series of capabilities that as communicators, it's really important for us to understand. And the concept of the intranet becomes more of this collection of tools that's embedded across your digital workplace. You can see where this could be really powerful, where if I'm in the field here, I'm just getting that information that's essential for me, and I don't have to navigate all of those different areas. And this is where I'm spending my day and my time. So getting this information in one place is really, really valuable.
And it really does create an efficiency for employee communicators, because instead of having to publish, you know, updates in multiple places, you're still only publishing updates in one location. You're just, you know, targeting that content, tagging that content, so it's getting to the places where you need it to be. It's a bit of a head shift, but instead of thinking about too many channels and posting on too many channels, you're still posting in one place, but getting it out to those channels.
Perfect. Now, one of the big gaps for communicators is analytics and ultimately insight. So let's take a look at how this is being addressed in SharePoint. Let's dive into one of these pages here.
Awesome. So here's just a normal corporate news page. Across the top, we have seen that in modern SharePoint, so this is modern SharePoint, not classic SharePoint, you have the ability now to access out-of-the-box SharePoint analytics right on the fly, right in context. So if you click on that, Ben, what you're going to see is this cute little page analytics flyout that gives you kind of a snapshot of the traffic. If you are shifting to a distributed content authoring group of people who update content, this is a nice way to reduce those number of requests, from the benefits team wanting to know if their benefits campaign is getting the traction that it needs. You can give them access to edit that page, and then they can see sort of how their benefits campaign is doing. So a great way to sort of reduce the number of requests to the communications team, but also kind of empower these content authors to use data to help with their decision making. This does fall a little bit short. There's more to SharePoint out-of-the-box analytics, but I want to show you some of the ways that we're filling some of the gaps in SharePoint analytics with Go Analytics. So in Go, we're using Google Analytics to do the capture, and we've instrumented pretty much every item in Go to capture all the little event clicks, every little button, every little link click, so you can have that robust analytics that you need to really make a measurement plan that matters. This is kind of the quote unquote out of the box template for Go Analytics. You can really see all of the sort of usage metrics being captured on the page, all the locations, what applications that they use. At the top of the page, something I want to draw your attention to is that office location. We can create custom dimensions based on your organization to slice and dice that data by location, by office, by business area. These custom dimensions can be really powerful in your measurement planning to make the data really be meaningful for the parts of your organization that you want to drive engagement in. We have some other example pages in our analytics report that really start to capture some interesting analytics about an intranet, even right down to the number of springboard clicks. So thinking of that bat belt, what are they clicking on? What are they revealing? What are they engaging with? So that's what we have for Go Analytics. But even with like Go Analytics and SharePoint Analytics, we've created one more next step in our analytics, which is called Content Engagement Analytics. Content engagement analytics is really trying to understand how do you kind of benchmark how engaging your content is. Here's our content engagement analytics application. I'm going to give you a quick little walkthrough of why we think this is important. So content engagement, it isn't just number of likes, number of comments, number of views. It really is an aggregate of all of these things. So if you scroll down to the chart just a little bit further down, Ben, you can see across the top there we have engagement, we have views, we have likes, we have comments. That engagement score there is really an aggregate of all that plus the number of users. Why that's important, it helps you start to get a better view of how your content, how engaging your content is for your employees. In the center of the graph, you can see the trend over time based on your categories of news. So if you have different categories, connection, employee journey, marketing, you could even do it by location. And you can click them on and off to see how those trends compare. And across the bottom, you also have that cumulative average to benchmark all your categories against. You see a little breakdown by month, as well as a donut chart on posts per category to just give you a sense of how distributed are my categories. And then if we get into a more detailed post, across the top there in posts, here's where things start to get, I think, a little bit even more interesting. Not that that wasn't interesting. We're going to look at a post from a new hire at Habanero. Now you can start to see the detailed view of that post, number of page views, likes, comments, and then that article text analysis. So you can see the readability of that article, how long folks run the page, the word count, number of acronyms, number of questions. These are all hypothetical drivers of engagement. So over time, if you're using content engagement analytics, you can start to see, oh, well, actually a readability of grade 7 is the best for our employees. We should be targeting a grade 7. So when you're going out to the people that are supporting your content, you can recommend, like, let's try to get that down to a grade 7 because our employees are going to be able to read that. Word count of 8,000 words, that's going to be too long for a news article. Let's try to get it about 500. That's really where we see engagement. And then just below that, you start to see the engagement growth, sort of tracking that engagement over time. This can help you sort of see the success of your campaign over time, kind of bolster it in bouts, and then watch that trajectory of engagement, as well as the breakdown by day for your likes, your comments, and the engagement and views.
Perfect. Thanks, Christina. Why don't you share a little bit about what's coming next in Go?
One of the most exciting innovations coming from Microsoft in the last year is Microsoft Viva Employee Experience Platform. We love that Microsoft has come around to realizing the impact of employee experience, both for the value of treating employees like humans versus machinery, but also how it will impact overall organizational health. Of the 4 Viva pillars, Viva Connections has the greatest impact on intranets and communicators. As we walk through in the demo, Go has been designed to work seamlessly with Viva Connections and take advantage of new tools rolling out from Microsoft. For Go users, you can use rich features in Go seamlessly with features in Viva Connections, and like we truly believe they're better together. We are building in ways to help you control the rollout of features. For example, we have a Go Teams mobile app that can complement your Viva Connections desktop experience. This is especially important if your content and communication strategy hasn't quite matured enough to use the Viva Connections first-party mobile experience, which really does rely heavily on the dashboard. We are keeping up with Microsoft so you don't have to, and our intranet consultants can help guide you to understand what tools are right for your organization's unique situation. Go's regular releases and upgrades ensure that you're always up to date and taking advantage of your investment in the Microsoft 365 platform. I know we've covered a lot today, but there's actually so much more to explore. So please let us know if you're interested in reaching out for more of a deep dive about Go or about Habanero or even about any kind of intranet topic. We love chatting about that.
Thanks so much for attending, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day.